looming in the West Hall, South Hall of E3 is a statue, I'm told, of 5 badasses tempting you to come in and play Battleborn. Battleborn is here. Randy Pitchford, President and CEO of Gearbox, is here. And E3 is on, Randy. And Battleborn is here in a big way.
We're here at E3. E3 is in a big way. Like, there's so many awesome games here
already, and it's like just getting started here.
You know, I can't believe how, like, what position we're in as an industry right now. It is no better time to be a gamer and to dive into next gen. If you're already here, you can feel it. If you're not on the next gen yet, you need to be as soon as possible.
Come on here, because then
there's so much awesome
VR and AR is coming, and just so much cool stuff.
And the booth that 2K has for us at Battleborn, it's unreal. It's like the biggest booth. Like, it just destroys the stuff we did for Borderlands. Like, it is insane. I can't believe how much 2K is behind the game. I'm just like, oh my god, this is great. I hope people like the game.
Hope people like the
yes.
game. I mean, yeah, but people are getting to get a look at it now.
Yes, yeah, we have playable.
We got playable?
We have playable. People are playing right now.
Go
over there. They're
there
playing the game. It's
later,
crazy.
So I can, very important question here. Is the Mushroom Samurai Badass playable?
I believe Miko is one of the play. I have to double check. Yes, I'm pretty sure Miko's playable. I know we have Miko. I
want to play the Mushroom, Randy.
You know, we're shipping the game. It's this crazy hero shooter. We're shipping the game with 25 playable characters.
Wow.
We have 10 playable on the show floor today.
Okay.
But 20. You know, Borderlands shipped. We had 4 playable characters.
Yep.
And then we added a couple as DLC.
Yep.
But we're shipping the game with 25 playable characters, and each character we've invested about 4 times as much in each character as we did for the Borderlands characters. That's across the board. That's in voiceover and how much dialogue they have. That's in bones for animation. That's in fidelity of the materials and how many, you know, how much detail we build these guys out of. How many polygons the characters are. Every aspect of these characters about 4 times the investment.
Does the bone budget get more expensive when you have 4
hands? I know, right? So yeah. So right now you're looking at a Rendy, who's this bitchin' witch basically, and she is super wicked. One of her special abilities allows her to create this column of dark matter and dark energy that just rips guys apart. Dark magic. I love Arendi. In fact, Arendi is one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most powerful assassins in the game. Just really good at throughput and doing a lot of damage to groups of enemies. Good at AoE. This is Darius. Now these guys are all Battleborn. All these characters are Battleborn, and Darius is one of the Battleborn. He's just this awesome kind of Gundam guy, and he's got jetpacks he can zip around with.
Battleborn
really fast.
Is the name for them in addition to just being the name of the game?
Yeah, we call them Battleborn. They're each members of factions that are around the last star. And the last star in the entire universe is where it's all going to go down. We know that eventually all the stars will burn out.
That's
that
grim,
at some
Randy.
point in the future,
It's real dark.
At some point, the whole universe will be dark.
Man,
at some point,
it's too early
all
to
over.
get that heavy at E3.
But before that moment, there's going to be 1 star left, and every species that has the ability to travel the stars will end up there, and they're all going to disagree, right? Some factions will think they need to protect that star. Others will want to study it and to understand what makes it work, maybe to keep it alive longer, maybe to create other stars. Some can't wait for the end. They're almost like religious fanatics that can't wait for it all to be over so that they can, you know, maybe they believe there's going to be some future.
Who knows what the Mushroom Men believe? Right,
but in the story of Battleborn, all these opposing factions realize they have to come together to fight against the real madness, and that's what's destroying the universe. You see, we know today the universe is being torn apart, being accelerated. And everything's spreading apart faster than it should. And it's dark matter and dark energy that's behind that. So our crazy little fiction we've invented personifies that. We've created this entity called the Virelsi, which are like the bad guys that are tearing the universe apart. And you have to deal with the Virelsi.
You got to take care of them.
You got to become one of the Battleborn.
Now,
yeah, go ahead.
You talked about the Battleborn as sort of being potentially antagonistic towards each other.
Yes.
That's maybe your competitive multiplayer sort of side of this.
Yeah, the factions are at war, yet they all have to come together to deal with this greater struggle.
But what we're seeing now is the cooperative side.
Yeah, so Battleborn actually has several game modes. You can play a campaign, you can play it totally solo, so it's a single-player campaign, or you can play it cooperatively, and up to 5 people can play together. So it's it's pretty full-featured in that regard. And there is a PvP mode, a full-fledged. I'm hoping people really like it and enjoy the competitive mode, because I'd love to see us invest in more of the esports kind of stuff with this game. We're having fun playing competitive every day. Here at E3, people are playing the campaign. It's broken into a series of chapters. So each scenario you can consume in a scenario of gameplay, a little session of gameplay, and you'll level up your hero, you'll earn gear and loot, and you'll deal with bad guys and badasses, and it's a lot of fun to play cooperatively. It's also a lot of fun to play alone, because it gives you kind of more time to check out the environments, which are just beautiful. Scott Kester, the art director, and his team have just done an incredible job rendering this environment. And you know, Scott was the character designer for Borderlands, so we've really just taken the shackles off of him.
Yeah,
and his team
you had some,
and let
you
him
know,
go nuts.
you had some creative-looking characters in Borderlands, but I think Battleborn, you guys have definitely taken it to a new level in terms of also just the sheer diversity of characters you have.
Yes.
Any look at sort of art for the game reveals any number of wildly different-looking heroes.
And that's driven not merely by the art direction, but also by the game design. And Randy Varnell, who's just an awesome designer. He was the design producer of Borderlands 2. Just an incredible, talented guy, super passionate about the game. He's been working hand in hand with the engineering team, the creature team from Borderlands that did all the enemies is on Battleborn, and Scott Kester and his art team. And these guys have all been working together to make this just incredible experience that I'm in love with. I remember when I first talked to Scott and Randy about doing this game and the idea of it, and here we are, we're playing it. It's incredible.
And when you talk about the experience of play here, in Borderlands, you know, it's first-person shooting action. It's you know, you're sort of generally ground-based. I mean, there's some jumping, there's some mild platforming in the environments, but when you look at the Battleborn characters, you got to imagine that sort of being nimble, moving around the environment, and also having specific powers that feed into that is a lot more of a part of Battleborn than it was Borderlands. And so, I mean, is that true? Is sort
really
of
depends on the
movement and the
character.
actual experience of playing
It
more
really
diverse?
depends on the character. Part of the fantasy we have in creating Battleborn is to make sure that all of our different archetypes, all the different kinds of characters we like to play as in first-person shooter are represented in some way. So yeah, you'll find super nimble characters like Thorn who can leap across incredibly far distances, or you'll find these like stout, like Baldur is like this really stout dwarf guy who's just super tough, and he wields an axe, and he's got a kilt. And in fact, from certain camera angles, when his kilt flies up, we actually do the blurry thing.
Oh
so
man, you guys
privates.
put dwarf upskirts in the game.
I know, it's only in Battleborn. There's characters with stealth abilities. There's like super tanks. Like Montana is just massive, so he's a slow and lumbering Hulk.
His head is like this big.
Yes,
He's
but
so
but his
tiny.
head is in proportion with his feet. If you look closely, it's
all right.
He's just
At
he's
least
just
there's
roided
some
out.
rhyme and reason in the world.
But these guys, there's a spectrum. So really, we're trying to think of. If you have a certain style of character that you like to play in a first-person shooter, you can find something for you in Battleborn. It's for every badass is represented. And it's just it's cool for me because I'm a snack boxer. I like sampling different characters. So
Snack boxer's a type as well. You guys cater to.
Yeah, I like sampling all the different characters. But you know, it's weird. Sometimes I'll get into one and I'll just stick with that for a while, trying to master it. And one of the other things that's cool that we learned from Borderlands, you know, to feel the full potential of a character, you have to invest at least 35, 40 hours to feel the full potential. We wanted to feel these characters in more accessible gaming sessions. We want gamers that like to have fun playing with their friends and for short periods of time to be able to get the full experience of a character. So in the course of a scenario or in a story chapter, you'll be able to get the full growth potential of that character. So if you want to try out Thorn, for example, the elfin archer, and you want to feel what her full capability is, get multi-shot arrows, be able to create like poison AoE blasts and all the cool stuff she can do, you can feel her full growth tree in a single scenario. And then the next scenario you play, the next chapter you play, you can try one of the other characters like Montana.
And even within the character, there are
Wrath is, and that's a Rendi. Yeah, go
even
ahead.
within the character in games of this ilk tends to be a certain amount of branching pathways. You know, if you have a certain character to play over the course of one match, you play the second match with that character, you could spec them in a real different way.
Yeah, just in the scenario itself, we have a Helix system, which through a series of binary choices, every time you level up, you can do this skill or that skill, this skill or that skill. And through that series of binary choices, you have radically different ways that you can build each character. Thousands of combinations per character, just in the scenario that you play.
Randy, this game sounds like a balancing nightmare. How do you guys make sure that all of these characters
are
like...
it's a disaster. It's a freaking disaster. We are playtesting it every day at Gearbox, and each week there's like a new meta about which, because we're constantly tweaking. And what's also cool is we have a focus test group. In fact, we have hundreds of people that are a part of our focus test group that come into Gearbox and play the game with us. If you happen to live in the Dallas area, go to the Gearbox website. You could sign up, and if you're lucky, you might get chosen to play the game with us. And I hope, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to do it. We're going to do a beta later, and that'll get more people involved. And the combination of our crazy incessant playtesting internally, our focus test group playing it with us every single day, and in the beta that we'll unlock, hopefully we'll be pretty well balanced by the time we launch. But if you know like all the support we did for Borderlands, you can expect us to continue to support the game after we launch. And I think that's part of the fun too.
Certainly Borderlands like a modern standard for DLC support in terms of just the amount of stuff you guys put in.
But not just DLC too. Like we've done a host of updates, and we're still tweaking the drop rate balance. In fact, just last month we did a run of each week doing different drop rate changes for legendary drops in Borderlands 2 and Borderlands the pre-sequel, and we've updated that. I still give out shift codes. If you follow me on Twitter, which is @DuvalMagic, I give out content. I give out free stuff for
I can attest this is true.
Yeah,
every so often your tweets are just a jibber-jabber of numbers and letters.
And I can't wait to do it for Battleborn. We've got so much more stuff that outside of these simple scenarios where you can build your character completely within just a short session. We have a very large metagame, so there's a hobby-grade experience there. You'll be getting loot. You'll be finding gear, and you'll outfit your character with gear, and you'll modify your gear setup in between matches.
That's
and you'll be
sort
collecting
of
characters
broader
between
progression
matches.
in addition to the in-match progression.
That's correct. That's correct. There's a broader progression for each character that you collect. There's also a broader collection for your profile. For you yourself, the player will rank up, and you'll earn benefits from ranking up.
All right, so Randy, who's your flavor of the day? Give me a hero.
Okay, I've been playing. Ooh, that's a tough one. I've been playing Arendi a lot.
That's the forearms?
Yeah. I love Arendi. I tend to go back to Montana. One of the augments, one of the Helix choices in the middle, lets you choose between fire and ice. So like half the time I'll pick fire, which does a lot more damage, adds a dot on the enemy, light them up on fire. Your barrel of that minigun heats up and just lights on fire, and it's just so awesome to burn guys down. But then the other option is ice, where you can freeze enemies, slow them down, cool everything off. That's awesome too. Montana is just one of the standbys. And what's funny about Montana, he was originally in a Furious 4, which just completely got converted into a totally different thing. So it kind of exposes our evolutionary process and doubling down on this game design that we've evolved.
And kind of echoes of Mr. Torg in Montana,
yeah,
too,
there's a little bit of Torg
certainly
in him.
in terms of his stature.
Yeah. And I'll tell you also, Oscar Mike is a lot of fun to play. He's just the classic, if you like Halo and like Space Marines, he is the classic Space Marine. If you've played Halo and that feels good to you, you can pick Oscar Mike and you'll know exactly what to do. And you'll feel exactly at home. And he is super fun to play because he's just that classic, standard archetype that we've all played a million times, and he's there for us as well.
And he's right in there. Amidst the mushroom people and the four-armed witches.
Miko is a trip, dude. Miko's actually a healer, and but he's pretty powerful too. He can actually take his mushroom head off and throw it into the world, and it creates this healing mushroom cloud around it. Yeah, he just takes his head off. I say he. I actually don't think Miko has a gender. It's not neither he nor it's some weird species that can reproduce with themselves. I don't know how Miko has
Sounds like
sex.
you guys had some interesting brainstorming sessions when it came to coming up with these characters.
Miko has no gender. And there's plenty, and Phoebe's awesome too. I've been playing Phoebe a lot. She's part of the LLC, so she's kind of this Victorian steampunk looking girl, and she summons these foils, which are swords, and she creates these magic swords and summons them, and she can have them rain down on enemies, and she's a lot of fun.
I'm down with magic swords.
When I talked to Randy Varnell, one of the designers, he reminds us of like back when we were kids. He still has his Star Wars like Darth Vader collector's case that you put all the action figures in, and he's like, this is like the video game version of that, like the collector's case that you put all your characters in.
Get all your action figures. Yeah, so you guys were saying you have 10 characters here playable, aiming for 25 total.
We will ship with 25.
You're going to ship with 25.
Can you believe that? It's crazy.
That's a lot.
You
That's
think
a lot
about
to-
that. You know, when we sold the characters as DLC, we shipped 4 in Borderlands. When we sold those characters as DLC, the publisher marked them at $10 a piece. We're including 25 characters that are all more investment than we've ever made in a character at ship. It's just unbelievable how much content we're putting in. And it's only because we were so successful with Borderlands that we can invest so much in this game.
Well, you guys had great success with Borderlands.
We've been very fortunate.
Here's wishing you success with Battleborn.
I hope so. I hope people like it because we're going nuts. We're really trying something that no one's ever tried before, so I hope people really enjoy it.
Well, thanks for coming on stage and talking
Thank you.
Battleborn, folks. If you're here at E3, go ahead and check it out in the South Hall.